Hey guys, it's Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan. My website is yourdreamslifecoach.com if you want individual coaching. If you are stuck and you are having trouble moving forward on your goal, I'm going to tell you 5 things that might be going on with you. Maybe it's not one of these, but if it is, maybe this video can help you. And I've been a life coach for a really long time since started in 2005 originally, like not full time, but that's when I first started. So that was a long time ago. Okay, 5 things that might be going on. Now, before I get into this, let me just say, please don't beat yourself up about this if you've been struggling. Like, that's hard enough. The last thing you need is to beat yourself up. So, let's just focus on problem solving and take any kind of like self judgment or self attack out of this. All right. Okay. Number one, I'm going to say if you're not totally clear on what you want and why, it can be really difficult to keep your motivation going. So you have to look at your reasons for why you want this thing and really, what does it mean to you? Why is it important to you? And connect with that. It might be a couple steps away. It might not be so obvious to you, especially if the thing that you're trying to do is something that maybe you don't enjoy doing naturally, or maybe it's kind of like a big headache to do this thing. But if you get really clear on the stuff that you want that is connected to this, that can make it so much easier. So just make sure that your motivation and your reasons for wanting it are obvious to you and they're not like so convoluted that you're like, why am I even doing this? Okay, so like if you're struggling to like, oh, I don't know, like clean out your closet or something like that, and you just see it as a chore and like not that important, it might help to like connect with what you want. So maybe you want like a beautiful wardrobe that you're like so excited to wear and you know where everything is and you're just like so not stressed out and you're just like, oh, this is awesome. I can just grab an outfit in like 5 minutes and be out the door. And I love my outfit. Like something like that might give you that motivation to want to do those annoying tasks, like, looking through stuff and trying it on and seeing if you want to keep it. And yeah, it's a lot of work. But if you know the payoff of what you're going for, that can make the whole process a lot more fun. So know your motivation and know what your payoff is and connect those two things together so that your grueling task is connected to the outcome that you're so excited about. Number two is make sure you don't actually have any kind of like health issue. This is a big one. More than half of Americans have a chronic health issue, and that's diagnosed. So, who knows how many people are undiagnosed? Now, when you have health problems, those health problems, infections or, any kind of chronic health issue, that affects your thinking a lot of the time. It affects your brain is part of your body, right? So like these things aren't just isolated to this one little area in your body. Like when you have a chronic infection that has affected your whole body, it affects everything. And so you might have fatigue, you might have fuzzy thinking, you might have low motivation. So they call this sickness behavior, which is something that you can do some research on. It's something that you can see in like your pet. So when your dog or your cat are sick, you know it. How do you know it? From sickness behavior. They're lying around, they're not doing their normal stuff, they seem depressed, they might even seem anxious, and it's because they're sick and their body is telling themselves, chill out, you're sick, don't overdo it, just rest, right? So sometimes in people, this happens too, and you get sickness behavior, and you're just like, you might think that you're depressed or you're anxious or something, but it might be that you have some kind of chronic illness going on and your body is trying to cope with it. So it doesn't hurt to look into your health and do your research, talk to your doctor, see if there's any tests that you should run. A lot of diseases too, like Lyme disease, really can affect your brain. It causes massive fatigue, trouble thinking, confusion, even trouble doing like basic tasks, like organizing something into a few piles might be really hard for someone who has Lyme disease, especially if the Lyme disease has gone into their brain. And there's other infections that can get into your brain as well. Plus, there's living in mold or hidden mold that causes brain inflammation that can affect your thinking. So sometimes these things are psychological and sometimes they're actually a physical problem. So if you've like tried everything and you can't seem to like get motivation up, you can't seem to get rid of your depression no matter what you do, and you've done all the things that are supposed to work and they don't work, well, you might start looking into physical causes and just make sure you've covered your bases. So that's a big one. Okay, so that's number 2. And then number 3 is if you have some kind of conflict in yourself. So part of you wants it, part of you doesn't. And this gets really tough. Because let's say there's part of you that wants to start a business. You know that this could be amazing. There could be so many great things and money and success and like more freedom and time. And then part of you doesn't want to start a business because perhaps this other part of you is worried, like maybe your spouse, your partner is going to leave you if you start a business, because maybe this person like drops some hints to you like, oh, I would never want to be with a workaholic. My ex was a workaholic. And now this part of you is like, oh no, if I start this business, they might leave me. That's just one example. It could be, the possibilities are endless of what the unique situation could be. But basically, there's one thing you want and one thing you don't want, and you're kind of going back and forth between the two. And that makes it really hard because that, cognitive dissonance, that conflict within yourself, it ends up like draining a lot of your energy. So, part of you might be like, oh, I'm really excited to start a business. I have all these entrepreneurship books and I'm like reading them and I'm like watching Shark Tank and like, oh, I want to do this. And this other part of you is like, yeah, I think I might just put off my tasks though. Like, I might not really look into that this week. Like, maybe I should just read more books about it versus actually like taking any action. So you might really find that when it comes to doing something that does move you forward, you just like can't get yourself to do it. Even though you're like a motivated person and you're not lazy and you try really hard at stuff, you might have an inner conflict going on, which is, of course, some of the stuff we talk about in coaching is figuring out those things. Or, you could also have like a belief, a conflicting belief. So there's lots of different ways that conflict could be popping up. An example of a conflicting belief might be you think that making more money would really help your family out. Maybe one of you or your spouse could even stay home with your kids during the day or part of the day if you made more money, and that's awesome. But perhaps you have this belief that people that have plenty of money are all evil, horrible people, and that they're all selfish and mean, and you don't want to be like that. So this part of you is like, oh, if I really made a lot of money, would I be like a evil Mr. Burns kind of person, And so that false untrue belief would be something that like you would have to deal with and then create a new belief that was more accurate and actually true, that you could be a successful person who is still a really giving, nice, empathetic, caring person who just has enough money to feed your family and has enough money to survive, and in fact enough money to thrive, help other people out, and you could even start businesses and charities and nonprofits, and you could create jobs, and you could actually employ people and pay them well, and so you get to create your own beliefs is the cool thing. If you have some of these conflicts going on within yourself, you can look into that and then change your beliefs to something that will support you better and be more accurate and true. and then it might be a little easier to commit. So that was number 3. And then number 4, you have to look at if you have some sabotage going on, either from yourself or from someone else. So, unfortunately, not everything is all like lovely and happy unicorns in life. We have some bad stuff too. And so, there might be people in your life that, out of insecurity, are trying to pull you down. And perhaps these people or person in your life might be threatened by the idea of your success. Now, it doesn't always mean that these are evil people. It's possible that these are people who are just, insecure or maybe very dependent on you. And they're afraid that if you made changes, you might leave them or you might not have time for them and that kind of thing. So sometimes people will try to sabotage you because they don't want to lose something for themselves, which is, of course, selfish, and so that's not cool. But selfishness often comes from weakness. Not always. Sometimes it just comes from evil, but sometimes it does come from weakness and insecurity. So other people might be trying to sabotage you, and a separate issue might be that they are trying to sabotage you because they're trying to make themselves look better, and they think that if you are shining, they might not look as great next to you, which is a total fallacy, by the way. I don't know, like, why people think this, because people are good at assessing, like someone being worse doesn't make someone else look better. In my opinion, it really doesn't. Like, people can accurately see, like, no one's going to be fooled that, oh, you're standing next to a short person. No one's going to think, wow, you're so tall. Like, they can still see what your height is. So knocking everybody else down does not make you look taller. It just makes you look like a bully. That's how I see it. I think a lot of people see it that way and aren't fooled, but there still are these people out there. You can see my other videos on narcissism if you're interested on why some of those people might be that way. So some people might be trying to sabotage you, either because they don't want to lose you in some way or because they don't want to look bad and they think that if you shine, they might look bad, or they might even just be jealous of you too. So that's unfortunate, but you could have some saboteurs in your life. Now, you might also, yourself, you might be the saboteur to your own success. And this is something that can happen, especially when you have some of those beliefs going on that are limiting beliefs, is what we call them in life coaching. They're beliefs that hold you back, and they're not true. So what we need to do is create new beliefs, which to do that, we have to address your limiting belief. And, we can't just like, oh, just don't believe that. Oh, that's dumb. That doesn't work. You have to, people have good reason for their limiting beliefs. They didn't just come out of nowhere. Like, people have had life experiences that cemented these beliefs and they really, really seem true. So we have to address why that belief is there. So for example, you might have, if you yourself are your saboteur, you might have grown up with certain thoughts and beliefs or created these thoughts and beliefs from things that you saw in the world. Like, let's say that you grew up and you were kind of poor, or you grew up with parents or grandparents that had grown up poor, even though you didn't, and they kept telling you about, oh, you better hoard everything because, oh, the world might be ending soon. So, you better not take any risks and just keep yourself safe and just, stash everything away and save every penny. And then if you try to do something different than that, something that has a little bit of risk to it, I'm not advising you guys to do risky things, by the way. These are all your decisions, and it's just what you want to do. But if that's really what you want to do, let's say you want to do something with a little bit of risk, maybe you want to go back to school, and that's a little bit of a risk because you're out of the job market for a little while, right? But let's say you really want to be a lawyer and go to law school, but to do that, you're going to be out of the job market. You might not be able to find a law job right away. There's some risk to it. And even if that's 100% your dream and what you want, you might have a saboteur from yourself that's like, oh, well, you should never take any risks in life, is what I learned from the world. And maybe you learned that from people telling you that, or that was your experience. Maybe something really bad happened when you did take a risk, et cetera, et cetera. So that needs to be addressed and dealt with um, as well. And the last one I want to talk about is that number 5? I don't even know if I'm going on to number 6, but if it is number 6, that's fine because I want to tell you guys as much as I can. Is just low self-esteem. So even if you don't have anything blocking you as far as beliefs or, saboteurs of other people or yourself, if you just have insecurity about this area, or you have some worries or fears, some lack of self-esteem in general or in this area, that can really pop up and stop you when you're at that point of taking action, which is really frustrating because you have like everything lined up and nothing is really stopping you. That's like, you don't have like a real roadblock in the way, but yet right when you get to that moment of, okay, I should do a cold call, or I should walk over and start chatting with that attractive stranger, right at that moment, you just breaks and you just stop and you just don't do it. And you don't really know why. But you're like, oh yeah, I didn't didn't do it. And that's so frustrating because like you really want to achieve that goal, but it just, you have everything lined up and maybe you even did all the prep work and you like got all ready and you're looking all fresh and clean, and you go to the bar and you're just like everything's going great and you want to meet someone, you want a great relationship, and then you're like, oh wow, that person looks amazing, I would love to talk to them. I'm just going to look at my phone instead and I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to go home. So with this one, it's really about developing your ability to be human and your ability to not have to be perfect, because the root of insecurity is really thinking that you're not enough and that you need something else to be enough, to be accepted. And you don't, you are enough because you're human. That's the thing about being human. So people with high self-esteem, they know that at times they're going to make mistakes or, have things that they need to fix, have parts of themselves that they want to change, in fact. But what it comes down to is they feel like, they're worth just being here on the earth, and they don't have to be perfect. To just exist, basically. And insecure people feel like they have to sort of always have something to prove. Like, okay, just to exist, I have to kind of justify my right to be here. And so they're always trying to impress other people or convince other people, like, look how great I am. See, like, I deserve to be here. Or they try to get other people to, like, compliment them, So sometimes, interestingly, insecure people will actually beat themselves up and play the victim to hope that other people jump in and say, oh, no, don't say that about yourself. You're great. Yeah, don't worry. So regardless, insecure people have a hard time being human in that they don't like to be vulnerable and they want to, see themselves as just perfect all the time. But that doesn't allow you to take chances and risks and try new things, because when you try new things, you do look dumb. You do. That's just, it's part of learning anything new. You're going to make more mistakes than not if you're learning something new. If you're doing it right and you're really in the learning process, then it's not going to be perfect. And that's how you learn. You learn by making mistakes, right? So if you have that insecurity, that's something that part of that we can focus on in coaching. But if it is a very deep-rooted issue, then that would be more of a therapy thing. Like if that is a childhood insecurity issue, that'd be a therapy thing. So, swipe this way or this way. I don't know how the camera sometimes it does like a mirror image, so I don't know. But anyway, don't work with me if you have a therapy issue. Work with a therapist instead. And if it's more of a like you are emotionally healthy and you just kind of are lacking confidence in an area, like due to lack of experience or whatever, that's something we can work on in coaching. But if it's like a deep-seated area and you just really have serious self-esteem problems, that'd be a therapy issue. Okay, so I hope that was a little helpful. And that's definitely not all of the possibilities that could be standing in your way. But as a life coach, those are some of the things that I see the most often as far as blocks that are preventing people from taking their actions, which is so frustrating when you've made your plan, you have your tasks, like it should be so great, and then it's like, oh, I have to do what? Oh, I have to do my task. Ooh, my task. You might have one of these blocks. But the cool thing is if you address that, you figure out what's going on, and then you think about it a little bit differently and you change your plan just slightly. So then maybe it's like instead of walking over to that attractive stranger and feeling like I have to have the perfect thing to say and they have to like me or I'm going to go home and cry, you might instead change it to all I have to do is just say, hi, how's your night going? And that's literally all I have to do. And whether they respond well or not, my task is done. I can check that off. I can celebrate that I did the task. And if they don't like me, that is their right, because no one should be forced to like other people. So they have every right to not like me. If you change your mindset like that, you might even see it as a fun thing. Like, oh, I'm going to really be happy and like I'm going to feel a sense of accomplishment when I overcome this fear and I just do that task of just saying hi to somebody. It doesn't have to go perfect. So a lot of it is just changing your mindset and the way you're thinking about these goals. And then in time, eventually, the way that you think about yourself does change and you start to accept yourself more. You start to problem solve more instead of attacking yourself, attacking other people, like, I mean, man, hopefully not physically, but sort of blaming other people is what I mean by that. Like, mentally blaming yourself for other people for, oh, that person, how dare they not give me their phone number? What's wrong with them? They must be a terrible person. Or, oh, I'm the worst dater ever. I'm going to be alone forever. I can't do this. Victim, victim, victim. So it's like attacking others or attacking yourself. That's what I mean by that. So you have a lot of power and control over changing these things, which is really cool. But my main tip for everybody would be just give yourself permission to be human and try to accept yourself a little bit in your process towards growing and developing and learning. Learning isn't always a pretty process, you don't need to like succeed. You need to learn. You need to be open and learn and grow. If you're being open and you're learning and growing, that's the key. It's not about perfection. It's not about bragging about your results. That's not going to get you anywhere, and that's going to just keep you stuck. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you want my rates for individual coaching, go to my website, yourdreamslifecoach.com, fill out the contact form, and let me know a little bit about your situation and just like what you're hoping to achieve. Make sure you include your email address, otherwise I can't send you rates without your email address because I'm not psychic, unfortunately. Wish I was. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.